one woman's return to their town throws a family's life into turmoil. Hoping to fix this, the daughter uses her odd sense of smell to uncover her parents' tragic past. At an indoor pool, Vicky joins her mother, Joanne, as she trains her clients in water aerobics. After the session, she waits for her mom to prepare to leave while watching another worker, Nadine, whose face is covered in scars. The woman scares the kid just as Joanne finally arrives to take her daughter away. Later, Vicky helps her mother put on some cream before Joanne swims in the frigid lake. While she does, her daughter places the remnants of the cream from her hand into a jar labeled Mom 3. That night, Joanne's husband, Jimmy, catches her with their sleeping daughter in her arms, so he helps put Vicky to bed. The following day, Vicky labels several jars with various items like pine cones, insects, and a dead rodent. The day continues as usual, with Jimmy going to work as a firefighter and Joanne doing her shift at the pool. After her shift, Vicky keeps track of her mother's time in the frigid lake. As they walk back to their car, Joanne notices her daughter picking up random items, sniffing them, then putting them in a bag. Vicky explains that she's sorting them based on their smell. She lets her mother smell a rock, but Joanne doesn't smell anything from it. In contrast, Vicky can smell the mold and mushrooms that grew from it, along with the animal that ate them. Curious, Joanne tests her daughter's sense of smell. She uses Vicky's scar as a blindfold to challenge if she can find her using just her scent. She hides behind a tree, and Vicky easily detects where she is. Joanne then rushes away and covers herself with pine leaves to hide her scent, yet her daughter still finds her. Afterward, Joanne drives back to town and leaves Vicky in the car while she grabs something at the store. However, other kids start teasing her daughter, making Vicky afraid. The kids quickly run as soon as Joanne steps out of the store, leaving the mother oblivious to her daughter's predicament. The two then visit Joanne's father, and while the adults talk, Vicky wanders around, seeing her mother's pageant awards. Meanwhile, Joanne raises her concern over Vicky's heightened sense of smell, worried that her husband would put her into therapy if he found out. However, her father disregards this and just wonders about Joanne's relationship with her husband. He urges her to work on her appearance to appease Jimmy, even offering to babysit his granddaughter to give the couple some private time. This troubles Joanne that evening, especially when Jimmy leaves the room to take a phone call. Suspicious, she follows him, unaware that Vicky is also listening to the conversation. Jimmy reveals that the caller was his sister, Julia, which surprises his wife. The next day, Julia arrives at the family's home. While Jimmy is glad to have his sister around, Joanne is visibly bothered. As he lets her settle in the guest room, Jimmy notices Julia's bruises, though she claims to have just fallen. While Jimmy collects some clothes for Julia to borrow, Vicky tells him that her aunt smells like whiskey. She wonders why Julia doesn't have an accent like her father, so he explains that Julia was born in the country while he was already older when he arrived from Senegal. However, they grew apart, hence why Vicky hasn't met her before. While the adults talk in the kitchen, Vicky sneaks into the guest room and looks through her aunt's things. There, she finds an unlabeled bottle whose content smells odd to her. Curious, she pockets the bottle and takes Julia's sweater. That night, Vicky makes a jar for Julia's scent, pouring in some whiskey, a piece of cloth from the sweater, and the bottle's contents. She mixes all these, and when she sniffs the scent, it knocks her out. Vicky wakes up in the parking lot of a gymnasium. A group of ladies starts heading to the gymnasium, but they don't seem to see Vicky. To her surprise, a younger Joanne and Nadine are among them, leading the kid to realize that she's watching something from the past. Vicky follows the ladies and watches them practice gymnastics together. The coach suddenly rounded them up to introduce their new member, Julia. Upon seeing her, Nadine whispered something to Joanne, which made her laugh. Suddenly, Vicky wakes up back in her room. The following day at school, Vicky hides behind some bushes and uses Julia's jar again. She enters another vision where she finds Nadine flirting with a younger Jimmy. Nearby, Joanne and Julia were together, but the latter caught a glimpse of Vicky. Scared, she walked off. Jimmy followed his sister, who worried that it was happening again. Hearing this prompted Nadine to tease that Julia was crazy. Because of this, Vicky becomes curious about her aunt, so she watches her search around the kitchen for something later that evening. When she can't find what she's looking for, Julia heads out. The following day, Nadine suspects that Julia is staying at Joanne's house because rumors are spreading that she's visiting the local pub every night. Joanne denies the accusation and asserts that she and her husband don't know about Julia being there. Meanwhile, Jimmy's co-worker, Jeff, also warns him how people might do something drastic since his sister is back in town. Jimmy assures him that Julia was already treated, but but Jeff notes that the others won't care. They pass by the school, unaware that Vicky is experimenting with Julia's bottle. She places drops of its contents onto a bar of soap, but before she can do anything, her classmates find her. They start teasing and taking her stuff, laughing at Vicky's jar collection. They smother an egg on her face before opening the jar with the soap. However, they all fall asleep as soon as they open that jar. By the time Joanne arrives to pick her daughter up, the parents of the bullies have been gathered. The teacher found them unconscious earlier, and the other kids point the blame on Vicky. This prompts another mother to question Vicky, but Joanne gets defensive, hearing the insults that the kids use against her daughter. Before things escalate, she takes her daughter away while the other mother rambles about how Vicky will soon be troublesome like her aunt. While they're at the supermarket, Joanne comforts her daughter but asserts that Vicky should have told her that she was getting teased. Joanne's father then calls, urging his daughter to visit. He's worried about Julia's presence, calling the woman a pyromaniac, which Vicky overhears. Because of this, Joanne drops the call. Despite this, Vicky looks up the word on the internet that evening. Meanwhile, Joanne prepares dinner while Julia pours some wine, offering her sister-in-law a drink, which she refuses. Noticing her discomfort, Julia assures the woman that she can leave if Joanne wants her to. The woman dismisses this and just teaches her sister-in-law how to prepare the meal. As Julia helps out, the two grow closer, like when they were younger. Although when Julia moves away, Joanne shrugs off her pleasant mood as if not wanting to let her guard down. Meanwhile, Vicky uses Julia's bottle again and witnesses how close her mother and aunt were while they were studying. Joanne's father caught them and ordered his daughter to get dressed. While Joanne was away, her father told Julia that his daughter was always excited about new things but would easily get bored. Joanne also told him that Julia wasn't mentally stable, which caught the woman off guard. When Joanne returned, Julia decided to leave. Joanne ran after her worriedly, so the woman ranted about how people thought she was crazy, so she should just leave town. She insisted that she wasn't crazy, but she did see a kid who scared her. Concerned for her, Joanne offered to run away with Julia. She suggested leaving after the Christmas gala, adding that she refused to spend her whole life in their town. This convinced Julia to say yes, so Joanne pulled her into a secluded area where they confessed their love. During this, Joanne noticed that she had dropped one of her hoop earrings. The following day in the present, Vicky mixes some things in a boiling pot. She then smells a dead crow nearby and fetches it, only to overhear her mother and grandfather arguing about Julia's stay in their home. Ignoring this, Vicky adds the crow to her concoction, then pours the liquid from Julia's bottle as the last ingredient. With her nose pinched, she then places the concoction under Julia's bed. That night, Julia dreams about her younger self and sees Vicky there. She awakens with a loud gasp, alarming Jimmy, who rushes to her. He notices the smell in her room but ignores it to grab a drink for his sister. Vicky watches from her bedroom door as Julia hobbles out of her room, then shuts the door when the woman looks. During breakfast, Joanne confronts her daughter about the smell in Julia's room and the boiled crow in the garden. When Vicky doesn't confess, Joanne decides not to take her to the lake today. After the mother leaves, Julia tells Vicky that she knows what she's doing, so she should stop it. Scared, the kid runs off. Given Vicky's punishment, Joanne takes Julia to the lake instead. She explains that she uses the cream to reduce heat loss and that Vicky usually ensures that she doesn't stay in the frigid water for longer than 20 minutes. Any longer than that could be dangerous. Therefore, she needs someone to watch the time for her. Julia asks why she does it, and Joanne explains that she likes it. Taking this chance, Joanne finally asks why her sister-in-law returned to town, so Julia confesses that she wanted to see her. Ignoring this, Joanne dives into the water while Julia watches the time. Meanwhile, Jimmy takes their daughter to visit her grandfather. As he does, Vicky secretly enters another vision from the past and sees when her parents and their dates drunkenly spent time in the woods. The moment, however, was interrupted when Julia saw Vicky again. Vicky wakes up in her grandfather's house, seeing that the man is fast asleep. Using this chance, she takes her bike and heads to the lake, where she sees her aunt helping her mother warm up after her swim. The following day, Joanne takes her shift as a lifeguard in the pool when Nadine suddenly shoves her into the water. She screams insults at her after confirming that Julia is staying at her home. She thrashes her office and smashes Joanne's wedding photo, crying at how the woman stole her life with Jimmy. Because of this, Joanne later gets drunk at the bar while her family watches. She spots Jeff nearby, so she calls him over, but seeing that they're with Julia, he ignores her. Tired of their town's judgment, she defiantly pulls Julia to perform a love song with her on the karaoke stage. This surprises most of the patrons, watching as the controversial pair look into each other's eyes while singing. Jimmy also notices notices their closeness, making him suspicious. When they get home, Vicky storms into her room while her father comforts her. She demands to send her aunt away, fearing that she's destroying her family. She wonders if she wouldn't have been born if Joanne had run away with Julia when they were younger. This stuns Jimmy, who is confused at how his daughter knows about the past. Later, Jimmy confronts his wife, revealing that their daughter knows the truth about her and Julia. He is afraid that Vicky understands what his sister's preferences are, and this makes Joanne laugh as he's still ignoring hers. When Jimmy tells her to calm down, Joanne angrily screams at his face. He calls her crazy, so his wife yells that she's a normal person who wants to scream and live, unlike him, who's boring even when he's angry. As she quiets down, Jimmy tells her to sleep on the couch. Suddenly regretting her words, Joanne tries to apologize, but her husband pushes her out of their room and locks her out. The next day, Vicky panics as one of her pet birds suddenly dies. She blames Julia for this since the bird's cage was left in the guest room. When Joanne tries to convince her otherwise, Vicky asks if her mother loves the woman more than her. Embracing her child, Joanne assures her that she loves her daughter. However, when Vicky asks if she loved her before she even existed, Joanne doesn't answer and just kisses her cheek. Later, the two bury the bird in the garden while Julia watches them. Joanne looks back at her, finally realizing how the woman is affecting her family. The following morning, Vicky is happy to see bags packed by the door as her aunt is about to leave. When Julia joins them for breakfast, Joanne barely looks at her and just tells her daughter to hurry up. Soon, she drops off her daughter at school. Though Vicky notices that her mother is preoccupied. Hoping to cheer her up, Vicky returns to her the hoop earring she dropped when she confessed her love to Julia, surprising her. Meanwhile, Julia gets drunk before thrashing Vicky's room in search of her missing bottle. Instead, she becomes curious about one of the jars. Later, Jimmy goes to the pool to look for Joanne. When Nadine claims that she doesn't know where she is, he slams his hand against her window, making her scream at him. He then confronts her inside her office, but their unresolved feelings from their past overcome them, so they end up spending time together in the storage room. Worried that her mother cannot let go of the past, Vicky later hides in her classroom to finally see what happened at the Christmas gala years ago. As Joanne's gymnastics team performed at the school, Julia suddenly snuck away into the lockers. She later reappeared, dressed in her jacket, before heading for the exit. Vicky follows her and sees when Julia loaded her belongings into a car. Meanwhile, Joanne prepared to leave the gymnasium as well. Wanting to stop them from running away together, Vicky exits the building but hides under the nearby Christmas tree when Julia spotted her. The frightened woman then sets the tree on fire to drive out her supposed demon. However, the tree had banderitas connected to the gymnasium. Joanne saw Julia with a torch in hand, cementing the belief that the woman was crazy. Hurt, she returned to the gymnasium just before the fire reached the establishment. This was the source of the chaos that led to Nadine suffering burns and the town ostracizing Julia. As the memories of the past plague Joanne in the present, she hesitates in her car before coming home. However, as soon as she arrives, she only finds a note that says thanks from Julia. Realizing what this means, she rushes out. At the lake, Julia drunkenly goes into the water, then takes a sniff of Vicky's jar that's labeled Mom. This reminds her of the happy time she had with Joanne. Soon, as her class is dismissed, Vicky catches a whiff of something that alarms her. She runs out and catches her mother in her car. Hurriedly, she gets in the car and alerts her mother that Julia is in the lake. The two head to the place and find Julia unconscious on the shore. They rush to the woman and desperately try to warm her up to save her life. Joanne then calls her husband for help, so he and his team hurry to the location. While waiting for them, Joanne and Vicky embrace Julia to keep her warm. Her daughter wonders if Joanne can live without Julia, and she admits that she doesn't know. Vicky then asks if she loves her father, so Joanne assures her that she does. Joanne also promises that she will always love her daughter no matter what happens. This comforts Vicky, so she asks her aunt not to die. Soon, Jimmy and his team wrap up Julia and get her into the ambulance. Given his time with Nadine and Julia's condition after holding back her feelings, Jimmy finally accepts the truth. He urges his wife to watch over his sister, so Joanne leaves in the ambulance while her husband and daughter go home. On the way to the hospital, Julia wakes up and Joanne kisses her, thus reigniting their love. Meanwhile, Jimmy settles on the couch at home, worrying about his family's future. His daughter soon joins him, assuring him that she won't leave him. Taking comfort in his daughter's presence, he then dances with Vicky, unaware that another kid is watching them from the future.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.